Aggie fans, we're here for the edition of Around the Track with Chari Hawkins, Utah State's most decorated female former student athlete. Chari, welcome back. How's it been?
It has been so great. I haven't been back to Logan in a long time. I can't believe how much has changed already.
Yes.
But it's really cool to be back here where my entire journey started.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about that journey, kind of what it was like, as a student athlete here at Utah State and, the process and getting to where you're at on Team USA.
Yeah, so I've told this story countless times, but something that's really special about me being back is that I'm going to be leading in the homecoming game, the I Believe cheer. But what people might not know is the I Believe cheer is actually why I came to Utah State in the first place. When I was at my recruiting trip, we were talking about, the amazingness of Utah State, and it was like, yes, I've heard this from a billion times. And then all of a sudden we went to basketball game and I heard that I Believe cheer, and there was something about those first two words, the I Believe, that hit me like a lightning bolt. And I think that one of the things I really carried through my whole life was believing in myself. And it's something that started right here on this track. It's something that started right here at this university. And so being back is so special. Being able to be part of the cheer is even more special. I honestly, I'm going to do my best to not cry when I'm on that, just because of that full circle moment.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, falling back on your collegiate career here, 5-time All-American, pretty difficult to do, right? So tell us about that experience and, really getting your feet under you as an athlete.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest proud moments looking back at my younger little baby self is how much anxiety I had. I was such an anxious athlete and I was so afraid of competing that being able to put 5-time All-American on my, letterboard is actually pretty amazing. And I think that honestly, that anxiety was what made me continue, because there was something in me that was saying I know I'm getting in my own way. And so being able to keep going, I want to work on this. I want to get better. And I want to I love this sport so much and I want to be able to love it. I don't want to have to hate the sport that I love. And so really being able to work on that. I mean, learning how to love my sport is probably the biggest thing that really elevated me to the next level.
Yeah, that's awesome. So All-American in the pentathlon, heptathlon. Tell us about that balance as a collegiate athlete, kind of doing both those events.
Yeah, so the transition from indoor to outdoor is really fun because we're not really in our full shape during indoor. So to be able to take off 2 events is actually quite nice. Yeah. However, they do decide to put those events in one day. So the heptathlon is 2 days and the pentathlon is 1 day. So you think okay, cool, we don't have to do all 7 events. And then we think, wait, we have to do one event, all 1 day and all 5 events. And it just feels a little unfair at the same time. But it's really good because to me, it's just a really good warm up into outdoor season. I love both of the events, but I think the heptathlon really has my heart.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, you're balancing a lot of things. You're running, hurdles, throwing, other student athletes and athletes get to really focus on their single events. So, how do you find the time and where do you focus, a lot of your efforts as you're preparing for your competitions?
Yeah, so I think for me personally, it was finding my superpower, what makes me really good. A lot of athletes are incredibly strong. There's a lot of athletes who are incredibly fast. For me, it's about explosive power, and I've learned that throughout my career. And if I could tell anybody one thing, I would say find your superpower early, especially within sport, because we all have strength. If you're mentally really, really tough, really dive into that and make it your biggest superpower. For me, finding out my timing in all my events was kind of like a lightning switch for me. And all of a sudden I started doing so good at each of these events because I realized that even though the events are so different, they can actually connect with one another. So being able to balance all of these things, it is tough because, think about doing an 800, but think about only training for it once a week. Yeah. Imagine if you had to go step on to a line. We're all so nervous about the 800 because none of us are prepared. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but being able to really use your superpower has been the biggest thing for me because I've been able to use it across the board.
Yeah, that's awesome. Transitioning to professional career, so American champion 2022. Tell us about that, and kind of what it was like to be at the top of the American roster.
I think the most important part of the fact that I ended up becoming a gold medalist was the fact that it came right after I didn't make the Olympic team. And a team that I thought I was going to make, because I made the team in 2019 and I really thought that 2021 was going to be my year. I worked really, really hard and did fall short of making the team and fell so deep, so dark. And I realized a couple of things. I realized, number one, I need to really release my own value to how I perform, because even if I don't stand on top of the podium, that doesn't mean that I'm not still worthy as a human. But the second thing that I learned is that if you can pick yourself up from your darkest moments and promise yourself that it's gonna get better, it does.
Yeah.
And I think the most special part isn't just that I won the gold medal, it's that I won the gold medal the exact year after something that was so tough happened.
Yeah, no, that takes a lot of perseverance and, kind of turning things around. So, most recently at the World Championship, finished 8th. Tell us about that and kind of what the next steps are for you.
Yeah, I think that finishing top 8 in the heptathlon at World Championships, I went in 16th, came out 8th, and I honestly think that the number one thing that helped me was enjoyment. I really pushed myself to just enjoy the process. I texted my entire family the morning of and just talked to them about how grateful I was and how I really couldn't have done it without them. And I really felt into that. But then also when I was competing, I made sure that all the events that I didn't feel quite as prepared for, which were a lot of events, to be honest, some things weren't clicking right away, I just decided to not worry about them. I kept telling myself, I just think it's gonna come together when it's gonna come together, and I'm not gonna worry about any of it. And I couldn't believe how much that frame of mind helped me. I didn't think it was gonna, honestly, there was a part of me that was like, I don't know if it's gonna help me, but I have no other options. And so this is just what's gonna happen. And all of a sudden, I either got a personal best or a season best in almost every one of the events, which hasn't happened to me in my career yet. And so it ended up being an overall personal best and top 8 placement. Within the first 5 events, I was in the top 3 of the competition in the world, the entire competition. There are some girls who are incredible javelin throwers, and so we know what I'm working on this year. We're gonna work on the javelin a little bit so that we can be more in striking distance when that 800 comes. But I was so proud of myself just for my mindset. I wasn't even proud of myself for making top 8. That's amazing and such an accomplishment. But the fact that I really was my best version of myself, and I'm not talking about competing, I'm talking about how I showed up, that's what I'm really proud of.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. So in the off season now, what are you looking forward to? What's next? You're having some time to rest. Of course, you're going to start training again. Olympics are coming up soon, as always.
Yes.
So tell us about that.
I'm a really big advocate for taking time off and for just completely allowing your body to recover. I think there's a lot of athletes that get worried. They're in the best shape of their lives and they almost don't want to lose that. And to me, I understand the mountain that it's going to take during season. And so I want to make sure that I have no, issues. I'm not tight. I'm not loose. I'm ready, know? And so the next little bit is going to be, I'm going to start getting into a lot of physical therapy, because I'm also 32 years old. So I'm not trying to go from 0 to 100. That's how we're going to break a hip at this age, right? And so I'll make sure to dip my toe in and really put that base level down. I like to train in a pyramid. So the base is the very bottom, then we get into power and strength. No, then we get into strength, and then we get into power, then we get into plyometrics. So we're gonna take it nice and slow, but I promise when the time is right, we're gonna be where we need to be.
Yes, that's amazing. So now some fun stuff. Tell us about, what do you miss about Logan? Some of the favorite things, when you're a student here, what were you looking forward to seeing again?
Yeah, I think it is so nostalgic to be around campus, and especially in the athletic sphere, because it was just such a huge part of my life. I come back here, I get little hairs standing on the back of my neck, and I think just being in the environment that I was so used to being in for 5 years is so exciting. I cannot wait for the game tonight. I think it's going to be incredible. And honestly, one of my favorite things about Utah State is just how the culture of Utah State is. So I'm really looking forward to everybody with their Aggie blue on and just bleeding blue with their whole hearts, wanting their team to win. And I think that that's just so exciting to be around.
Yeah, definitely a passionate fan base. So excited to have you back. Thanks for your time.
Yes.
Aggie fans, be sure to keep track of Chari Hawkins. Follow her on social, Instagram. She posts tons of content, and be sure to look out for the next Olympics, where we can cheer on a Utah State great.